Okay. So it says find laptops of Toshiba make A or HP or Acer in Best Buy Canada stores. Discover reviews, ratings, and opinions on the web. The price range you're interested in is between $500 to $600. Very cheap, I guess. So I guess older models. Um, how can we write a query for something like this? So the query one, laptops of Toshiba, HP, Acer. So the key term is laptops. That is the primary key term. So let's just write laptops and let's just write them at randomly just to put all the words together. HP, Acer, Toshiba, in bestbuy.com and words like review or reviews. Well, I think it will work all the same. Reviews, rating, price range, $500 to $600. So this is just not structured as you would like it to be. So where should we make the changes in order for us to get to these laptops from Best Buy? First of all, these are typically the questions that come in the exam, and I'll see if I can show you some of the examples from the practice exams. I don't know if all of you or some of you are interested in attempting the CIRS. If that's what you, of any one of you are interested in, we can do that as well. Just look him up to see, just get a broader perspective of how the tests are made. So Best Buy Canada is where we need to be. Now, if I need to go to Best Buy Canada, I could write Best Buy Canada just as a search term, but that wouldn't really gel all that well because now we are going beyond just our basic capabilities of writing the search terms. So instead of writing Best Buy Canada, I don't think that would work uh, for or would not be as precise. So in order to make this appear to be coming from Canadian source or it's not the Best Buy in USA, how are we supposed to write this? My approach would be to see how the Best Buy as a store structures their links or how they differentiate the source to be from different countries because Best Buy is so many different countries as well. So let's suppose I want to see what Best Buy URL looks like Canada. So here it is Best Buy Canada. I'll just look at the link and I see that it says bestbuy.ca. So they have used .ca default the source or bring it from the Canadian side and here Vancouver, Canada. So pretty much .ca is something that I can use if I have to apply a site operator or in URL. So returning back, I'd say that it would be .ca. I could easily put as a choice the operator site, okay, or I can apply in URL here. In URL is slightly more flexible for me because it might be a referral of some URL that has the word bestbuy.ca somewhere, and that would open up more opportunities for me to find, or it would be a broader search. So the initial approach is first you apply a tighter search, and if things don't work out, then loosen it up a little bit. Review your operators, review the emphasis that you put with the quotation enclosure, and you can open it up later uh, to make it work better in case if it doesn't show you the results. So I would put site like this, bestbuy.ca is my source. I want it to look for the words like reviews and rating anywhere on the content page. So if I want these words to be on in the body of text, I can do in text reviews. I could do in text ratings, but it'll tighten it. It's more tight. If I just use the words independently, I might get better results. But right now it's a tight search I'm making. And then this is another segment which gives the range. Now the words laptop, Toshiba, Acer, these are all supposed to have a choice. No, sorry, laptop is for sure something that I might find in the section of Best Buy, somewhere in the URL. So if I have to go directly to the laptops, perhaps I would just click on this and see how the links are, uh, how the stem of the link takes us to the laptops. If I write laptops here, okay, I might as well be able to use in URL laptops with an S, and I have to be accurate. I cannot mess up singulars or plurals here. So I would say in URL laptops, and to segment this, I would selectively change the position of site operator, place it over here so that the word Toshiba and laptops are not combined somehow, or it might just connect with laptops. So I moved it, and by putting the other operator in this location, I'm able to segment this part or separate this part. Now, Toshiba, HP, or Acer are options. Let me also move this. What I want is Toshiba or HP or Acer. Discover review on the web, price range, or your interest in between 500 to 600. Okay, so let me try this. 500 is showing up under 600, which is the premium results, the first one. This looks about right. And in text, there is a word Toshiba. So there would be either Toshiba somewhere or HP or something like that. Let's go on the page. HP is here, Acer is here, but there is always an issue with the ranges that we like it to actually perform its obligation with the range that we have given it. But somehow what it is doing is that it is picking up um, prices like 500. We have given a range 500 to 600, and here is 600. So that connection is usually not as stable for that particular laptops, but the range somehow wherever it is on that on that particular content um, returned, we see the spread of the prices that is distributed uh, not according to the type of laptop, but any of the prices for any of the laptops, which may exclude the ones that we are particularly interested in. So it is kind of a random. We do get some prices. These are not over $1,000, that's for sure. But at the same time, it is also connecting it with prices like 599, which is between 500 and 600, and the other 600 I see is over here. I see 500 here. So this is where, you can give it a best shot by putting the ranges. You can't count on it. However, the value of $600 is pulled and shown in the description part. And it is probably Dell computer, not HP, but the term HP will be there on the page. So that's where, it is not as um, easy to get to when you're using the price range. But still, we were able to run this query the best way that it is capable of. Uh, so in question one, query one, you can always improve on it. You can tell me to remove something or maybe try something else. But to me, this looked like some sort of, the solution, in my opinion. We could do it without in text also,
Can I
just
just can I
get
just
the rating.
ask,
Yes,
um,
yes, please.
why? So you put quotation marks around Toshiba, but
Mhm.
not HP and Acer. Could you put quotation marks around those as well, or?
You can do this also, but it wouldn't change anything for the search. What
Okay.
gets changed, and as you know, the reason why I put the first term within quotes is so that it sort of segments it as a set which has a function comparing using the OR operator to function with alongside other options. So uh, so it's not that it's going to affect what is happening here, because it's still going to look for the best option between Toshiba, HP, and Acer, and not that it is compulsorily going to bring Toshiba. Here, the quotation marks have a different meaning. Um, the reason for it is because we want to segment these as independent functions to be resolved first before they connect with each other. So ideally, this is how it is going to actually work. Like parentheses, I'm just using it to explain things.
Sure.
You see, and if I don't put the quotation marks here, what might happen is that the word ratings might connect with Toshiba as a word like this. It has a tendency to do this if I don't put Toshiba within quotation being the first term, which is, working alongside HP and Acer. So if this happens, then we might be in trouble,
Mm.
especially if two terms are together are more popular, it would just connect it, you know. So if I had over here, instead of ratings, is something like smartphone, for instance. Then it would just connect with smartphone Toshiba or any term which is together, like internet research. Let's assume everything else to be ignored on the left and right of it, just this concept. Uh, Terms like internet marketing, for example. If this was the term, then what would have happened is that it would connect these two together,
Mm,
and it will not make the word marketing comparable with others that are followed by the OR options. So if it was internet marketing and it is more famous together, which I know for a fact, it might just connect like this, automatically, even if you don't put it within quotation marks.
mm.
This
Thanks
is the
for
nature.
yeah, refreshing my memory on that.
It is nature of the beast, you can say, right? That's the problem. I
Mm,
mean, search is not perfect, but we need to be looking ahead to determine, or foresee what might occur, because we need to read the brains of how it is programmed. And because there is no fixed instruction sets, nothing coming from Google on how the algorithms are set, we only look at the results and we make assumptions. And the best assumption that we make is what keeps us, getting the better results. So this is the reason why I put the word Toshiba in the, within quotations to separate it. So if I put, what was it that I had, ratings, eh? Okay, just bringing it back to its original shape. Let's say this is why I've put Toshiba within quotation marks.
thank you.
So sure, no worries. Okay, so let's just push this, because these are notes. I just want them to be accurate enough you can refer to later. So this is my best way of writing this query. In the second one, Justin, if you need to look for articles, news, or blogs as a source to bring something related to deep fakes, for example, as a word, between the period June 31st, 2022 to 2022 to March 31st, 2023, we would be building a query like this. All right. So what I might do, what do you suggest for the beginners? Let's just do it the same way. Articles, I'll just put the words in, then you can perhaps help me to make this query work for you. Uh, Deep fakes. Is deep fakes one word or two words? Deep fakes.
It's
Hmm, it's one word. So this is fine. And is okay. Writing the dates. Year first.
you would, yeah.
We can write the dates first. Then we can, and June, and then 31st. And let's say I put two dots here, but you'll just do the corrections. That's how we will make it work. Um, and some of the things I'll be writing are incorrect. I've been doing it intentionally. Between, in fact, should write here. Yeah, no, this is fine. March 2023, March. Um, so these are randomly placed, all of them. Uh, and now I want to correct it, uh, give it my best shot. Please go ahead, Justin, advise if you
Okay.
can.
I
Just
would put deepfakes at the beginning of the query in front
deepfakes
of
in.
yeah, I would put deepfakes before articles.
Okay, let's do that. That's a good start. Makes
And
sense.
then I
Okay.
would put a bar, the or symbol between articles and
Okay.
news.
Okay.
Same with news
And
and
blogs.
blog. Yep. And then I would do before colon
Yes.
in front of 2022. Oh, you said
Okay.
after. Wait, between the
That's accurate.
period.
Accurate.
Okay.
Good. I like that. Yes, that's pretty good. Now, my input may be to make it because see, when you're using articles, news, and blogs as words, these are mentioned anywhere on the content page. Uh, and these could be part of the content as if it is part of some sentence, or one of these words can be, duplicated, randomly found anywhere in that text. So these are just words and not the source of finding it as news articles or as news or as blogs. You see, the source, the only way that you want these words to be mentioned in articles, news, or blogs is to restrict these three words to default somewhere on the page as a section or an area or a source which pertains to the form of writing being articles or news or blogs. So in that sense, if I am to discover it as a source or ensure that it is a source, the only recourse I have is to use the operator like in URL, for instance. Okay. Because the likelihood of finding it as a section or area or a source, which may, by the way, be a word as part of the last leg of the URL, which mentions title. So if it is a part of the title, then there is a chance, and it may not be the source itself, but a part of the title. So that could be a dilemma or one of these limitations. For example, just to explain it, if there was, I'm just making a fake URL, give you an idea of what I'm trying to explain here. AOFIRS.org / I have mm, articles here, or article, and then I have something that talks about mm, dangers of deep or deep fakes. Let's suppose this is the URL, and I'm just going to um, compare it with the ones that might cause confusion and bring the uh, or may not give you the source exactly. So if instead of the word articles here, it was something that says, say it's not an article, none of that. So it is, let's say, um, contributions. And here the title says, how do I put it? Articles, deep phase. Call it A, let's call it B. So when I'm using in URL and using the word articles, uh, it will find this link and would direct the search to this particular page in the article section, and this will reveal the source from articles section of site. But in B, what will happen is that now the word articles is used um, in the title of that page. So the source itself is coming from something called contributions. So this word is not actually relating to or coming from the source where the articles are put together, or if the articles are arranged on that page, so that the source is particularly coming from where the articles are held together. Rather, it is the word which is part of the URL, but it is part of the title and not the source. So this B might also be searched together with the source, which is truly A, that is coming from the articles. Similarly, if I change the word articles with news, and here the word news is found in the title of the page, it's not the source, because this title can be any other format. It could be it could not be a regular writing, but it could be some information page on that website. So again, the confusion is B. A is the source, which is where we would find it um, as a folder. The word news could be a folder. Folder means that it is the section of where the specific type of the writing is supposed to be found. So if the source for dangers of fake is what we need, or dangers of fakes is the title of the page. It is not the section. It is not the original source itself. You see what I'm, do you, are you able to connect with what I'm saying? It's a little bit confusing the way I've probably explained it.
Makes sense to me.
Because, if you know how to read the URLs, you can understand it better. When you read the URL after the domain name and backslash, you see the sections or areas where the link would take you to, or where the source is the news. For example, if it is, let's say, CNN or any other website, moz.com is my favorite. So let's go to moz.com. And supposing I need to go to the blogs, you keep looking at the URL at the top and see what happens. Because when I click on blog, where is it going to take me to? A section where writing is for blogs only, or all the blogs are placed on the page called blog. So with this navigation, when I click on it, it will take me to a section which is blog. Okay. Now watch further. If I select this one as the title of the writing, what will show at the top? You will see that the last leg of it, or where the last backslash ends, and where this information is written, this is the title or the title tag of the page or the writing of the blog. So the blog is named Google Intended Result Update. This is what it is. I don't know why it's okay. Google intended results update. This is the name of the title page. But if you wanted something coming from a news source, then this word blog would be news instead. Okay. So that's just to let you know that when you are looking for a source to be coming from, say, blog, um, not the news or not anywhere else, just the blog, then you're going to put in URL colon blog, and then you can continue by putting the search phrase as the title of the page, because this title is separate. This information is separate from the information that is coming as the word blog here, because this is a directory. This is the directory or a folder where a paper called Google intended result update. Uh, this is the page of information, and this is the title of it. So the title of the page is different. It's not the source. Blog or this folder name blog is the source. So whatever information follows after the word blogs as a last leg or as the title itself is not the source, but a title that is of the writing. Okay. So this is what I will do. Where these could be the section or sources, blogs, news, and articles, and the word deep fakes can be part of the title of that page or a long title that has the word deep fakes in it. And then after and before, of course, you know how that works. So if I copy and paste it, now to me, it looks like it's a satisfactory search query. I made it better by using in URL, or you could say I made it more accurate by using in URL command, only because I want the source that contains title that includes the word deepfakes in it to be coming from either articles, news, or blogs and nowhere else. Okay. So that's the three options I've given the search. I'm going to copy and run it in the browser. It's coming from news. This one is coming from articles. Uh, Here the word news is coming from news. So, the source can also be just the, um, you know, source will have to have a form that you need to identify with the type of writing in this case. Other than that, it may bring results which contain the word news or articles or blogs as part of the writing, but that content page may not actually be serving you the best, because it may not be the article or it may not be the news or it may not be the blog yet, because the word news, blogs, or article is somewhere on that page as a writing or its information page, just for viewing of the users. It may not serve you properly, because that means that it is not truly a written article or part of the news, or it may not be part of the blogs. That's the reason why we use in URL as three options, ensuring that these are compared with each other to find it in. And you can see it says articles here. What this means, for instance, like this URL, it's saying that it is Brookings.educational backslash articles, backslash deepfakes. This is how it is set. But the word article only says that if you go to the URL, you can see it is coming from a section of articles in brookings.edu. So the nature of the writing is articles that can be found here. These are the articles. Some of these, like this one, has deep fakes. So these are articles. And when you look at the URL, you could see that the section where it is pulled from, or where the deep fakes is a word used in the title part, is actually coming from a source of articles. And these are the articles. And here is the word deepfakes. Justin, is it confusing for you?
Nope. Makes sense to me.
All right. So this is all I wanted is for, and Dorothy, you're doing okay?
Yep, doing good.
Thank you. Okay. Last one, search for a blog between the period from to, and by the way, it's any one of you had a chance to look at the video for, you know, the one that I guess I mentioned about writing the dates or date formats, the different formats you can use for before and after. There is a video for it, which explains a lot of, I guess, variations of how you can use the format of dates. Okay, if you haven't, then it's a good idea to just quickly go through it. It's probably about 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes video. And that explains a lot about writing of dates in the range of period. Okay. So let's see. Search for a blog between the period. Okay. That is written by the author Jonathan Schreiber. Schreiber, I guess that's how you pronounce it. So let's just write query. Yeah. Jonathan Schreiber. So we need to look for the blog or blogs. Okay. So what should I do? Blog. This is how Justin likes to write the queries, which is actually makes sense. So let's say Jonathan Schreiber comes first, then blog, or maybe blogs as a plural. I don't know. Don't want to take any chances. And then I write, what is this? Uh, let's just put the date 2021. January and June 2021. So say after and say before. This query can be written in two ways or more than one way. And as far as dates are concerned, you can just write it like this also. So between, let's say, let's call it so A, B, and C. Which one do you think is the best, or you think is more accurate, or completely inaccurate? So between A, B, and C, what is your opinion? Any one of you? You want to have a go? Let me know.
I'd be inclined to go for B.
B.
Um,
Okay. That's
Yeah, I
Justin.
was thinking B too.
Oh,
Or,
that sounds good.
okay. All right. So you know that these both formats where I've used the backslash and instead, which is what is recommended, the dashes is what Google tells us to write, but even the backslashes would work, right? Because first thing is to look at the dates, how you have formatted them. So the good news is the backslashes apparently seems to work the same as the dashes, but dashes is what is recommended with the year and the month and the day that follows. That remains the same. So yes, this part is accurate. Where we are doing in URL blog and blogs, yes, this is a good idea to put the OR in between. So the source is coming from the blog or blogs. In text means that you are just asking for the word blog to be mentioned somewhere in the body of text and not pointing to the source coming from the blog writings. Jonathan Schreiber, definitely somebody that's quite well known, I believe. I don't know the gentleman, but assuming it's famous enough. So let's try uh, B and see if it is doing the job for us. So I simply copy and paste it here and just give it a last look to make sure it's working. Okay, so here are the results. Jonathan Schreiber, for sure, it searched it, found it, but starting with the dates, do you see anything that is not accurate from January to June? Okay, January to June 28th. Do I see March? Yes. April? Yes. But nothing that goes beyond June 28th. So it is still June 24th. This is June 8th. So the date is working accurately and the source is coming from the blogs, as you can see. And I'd say that it's reasonably accurate for me. Blog, it is a blog. Fantastic. Good job. I think we've done quite well. And I would say that now you are able to build your own search queries. You have a good sense of what can work and, how to make it work for you. It's good enough for me. I'm satisfied. I'm going to try to see if I can get to the exam examples. Um, what is it called? Class marker. Class marker. Let's go to the class marker. See, this is the platform we use uh, for staging all exams and tests and all that. So I just have um, some information. Obviously, these are not the actual exams, but they are set similar to the real ones. And the type of questions that will come in the exams, they all have different formats. Like they could be multiple choice, they could be matching terms, and so on. So just to give you a sneak peek, let me open up question bank, because that's what we need to know is what type of questions are expected when it comes to building search queries. Final exams. Module 2, say go. Hmm. Okay, for example, question number 38, it says complete the following search query and fill in the blanks A, B, and C. So you're just going to put the search term here. Like the query says site info today.com. So this is where you need these wordings to be found. It's asking for you to search for the word newsletter. And here you just have to insert or fill in the blanks. So this is the type which is to do with filling in the missing words or the missing operators. In this case, it's the operator you need. Search for the words. So you can say in text over here. A would be in text, in my opinion. Restrict information pages of 2019 to 19 to appear in search. In URL, I would put 2019 and look for files in PDF format. And here I'm going to type file type. So basically what this query would appear to look in terms of how I can structure it. I will pretty much write it like this. Here I would say in text and let's remove A. In URL, uh, 2019. Okay. This should be the answer. So if I want to look up the answer to check if it is accurate or not, I will, because I have the answers here. So the A would be in text. In text is what I wrote here. Then we have B would be 2019. And this is where I have to insert the property value or uh, the property value being 2019. And in C, I'm just putting file type. So A is accurate, B and C are not accurate. So this is just to give you an example. We are not going to spend a lot of time on this because there is a separate session on how to attempt your exams, and you will have access to the practice Q&As as well. We'll tackle that one later. But this was an example I just gave you. If there is any confusion in the answer, you can ask me now. One of the things that you would be curious about is why I put 2019 in B, or where I declared after in URL the property value to have a number or year 2019. This is because when you observe, and this depends on your observation as well, and uh, how well you have read that in the book, because you will find that most of the URLs contain the year or some sort of date or some format of date to sort of give it um, uh, a location of where or when certain information was uploaded or certain pages got uploaded, because URL is what is like a DNA. It contains enough information that could take you to the page directly. One of the information sets is the date. You will see invariably when you observe the URLs, especially in the news arena, um, any of the websites that contains news section, you will find that the arrangement, besides revealing the source of what type of writing it is, it also contains the period, or the date of upload as part of the DNA or the part of the stem of that URL. Just keep that in mind. This is one of the examples, and when you do your practice exams, when you are becoming better at it and you're getting better scores, you can attempt the final exams. But remember, at the same time, final exams are not constructed using the same Q&As as you do in the practice exams, but they're very close to it. That means a few things might be changed, or might be moved, or the structure of how they are set might be slightly different, but they are so close to your practice exams that if you do well in that, 95% I guarantee you will pass the exam in first go. And not only that, you practice with Q&As, and you also get results coming to you right away, and you can see what was correct or why it was incorrect. And if you pay your mind to it and carefully analyze it, and attempt it the next few times, so that you're able to get higher scores and there are less errors, it means you're ready for the final. You don't have to think twice. It will just come naturally. You will find it much more easier to pass the exam. So that's just my advice. And then everybody has their own way of learning or preparing for the exam. Anyway, I think it's time for us to take a short break, and I will return and we will, um, unless you have any questions in the meantime about search queries, I'd like to conclude that or finish this part and start with the segment 2 or part 2 on traditional research methods and information sourcing. So I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody's back. James, Justin, Dorothy, and let's see, it's just the ones.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay, excellent. So you can see my screen, eh? That's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to start. Thank you for that. I'm going to start with the subject of internet challenges, information sourcing, data types, and surveys. And that's just a broad heading, but begin with, let's look at the information sourcing first. I would like to bring to your attention this slide, which gives us an overview of the type of search engines that could be very helpful. And depending on your approach or your strategy, you can make your choices. Um, there are these main search engines like Google or Bing, or for Eastern European searches, Yandex is another kind of search engine. A main search engine or a true search engine is an environment basically that has a lot of servers, as I explained to you in the technology section when we started in the beginning. So the search engines are not something that you could say is just one piece of software. There is other type of uh, assumed to be search engines, but they're not true main search engines. Like I get a question if Firefox is a search engine, it is not. If DuckDuckGo is a search engine, not really a search engine, but they are growing slowly and putting their servers. But truly speaking, they are not main search engines. Um, the kind that I'm referring to, which are well known and have the strength of acting exactly like a search engine, is Google, Bing, Yandex, Baidu, Yahoo. So these are the five main search engines. Then there are specialized search engines, which means that these are basically programmed to search for certain type of files or certain type of searches. And we have a list of these, which is what we have mentioned earlier, the reference guides that you get in your Dropbox, which has, links and a source for getting to some of the specialized search engines. All of them are listed under headings, or they're organized according to the subject matter of searches. So those are specialized search engines. I'm assuming you may had a quick look at it somewhere in the Dropbox, but just so that I don't want you to be ignoring it. So let me take you to that Dropbox quickly, just so you know where they're put. I'll give, let me see if I can get to them. Should be here somewhere. Um, Reference booklets, specialized search engines. Let me see what the password is. Like this one. See, if you want to do searches just for the blogs or within blogs, you don't have to write search queries if you use search engines that are referenced in this location on page 28. Similarly, academic searches, science, arts, they are listed in this area. Document searches, FTP files, forums, online communities, general directories, all these are listed here. Human rights search engines are another set of specialized search engines. But these are in public domain, public property. Some of them you will find require subscription, or they're something which you have to pay for and download them. There are legal search engines, international law related, so you can go on any of these to check them out. For instance, if I click on blogs, these are the different search engines, and there is a description and a rating. This rating is based on a criteria which we have established at CIRS to identify them with the quality of search results, with the efficiency of results produced, and also if they're authoritative enough. So there are different criterias, and this is just the rating for your convenience to to find them more useful or less useful. So that's what I'm referring to when we are talking about the specialized search engines. Then we have something called meta search engines. Meta search means that they basically are fetching information or data from the main search engines, or they piggyback on main search engines and collect them based on, or based on, I guess, their idea of what their own ranking theorem would be able to produce as far as the quality of results. So it may be coming from, some of it may be coming from Google, some from Bing, some from other main search engines. And these are meta search engines. Example is metacrawler.com. Metacrawler is another search engine. And here I have a new breed of search engines that are AI based, which is something like, I'm not talking about Chat GPT. I'm talking about like YOU, for instance. This is also AI based. AI based means that it has a brain of its own, which adds to the quality of results, and it would understand the question, or you can pose a query in a simplest language, or you can phrase a query somewhat similar to Chat GPT. So there are different flavors of type of these AI search engines that are not listed because these are slightly older slides, and AI is the latest thing. Then you also can go to information portals for which you already have a knowledge of, or you have collected them in your links library as quick references. So those are information post portals. Most of these portals, well, there are two kinds. One is in the public domain, you don't have to pay for, like Open Corporates, for instance, that is similar to LexisNexis and has community contributions. Information, Wikipedia can be called information portal also. So portal basically means it is a larger set of information sets which are put together in an organized way so that it is not necessary for you to create queries to search them, but it has a way of searching for things in a typical database searches mm, for for SQL servers and internal servers, and also library servers. So those databases are different. They are not totally textual in nature. They're termed as information portals. You can subscribe to databases that resides in the deep web. Now, what is a deep web? That's the thing we'll look up and have a quick glance at a chart right here. Mm. Now, deep web or invisible web, you get to hear a lot about deep web. You also know that there is a dark web hidden within deep web. So what is deep web? Deep web means that certain pages that are not indexable because they are not available for accessing free information as you would otherwise with your regular searches, and therefore they remain either hidden, or they are subscription based, or there is a kind of a barrier to for those pages, or those type of um, portals, or those type of websites um, that would not be something that the search engine is allowed to index or put it in the records. So anything that we talk about as a deep web um, versus a visible web has a distinction which is separated by this red line over here. It looks very complicated because there's so much writing, it looks very busy, but the concept is very easy to understand. There is a level of security which allows for certain pages to not be that cannot be indexed, and other pages then that can not only be indexed, but they can be accessed freely without any subscription. However, within that layer, there is another layer of visible parts, which allows for the users to have a control of what should be hidden from being indexed and what may exist by choice of the user to make it available for it to be indexed by a Google search. A lot of times, certain pages that are hidden or that are not otherwise available in, let's say, current time and date may have been cached by Google at some point in the past. So a lot of times, and besides, those cached pages are the ones that don't have a dynamic code, and they're just information sets. Or you could say that if you click on those links and try to access it in today's date, you will not be able to make them appear with the same information. This information may have changed. So that sort of happens quite a bit. But if I need to collect some evidences or look for information, just about enough information, let's say, that I can get to see what was there, I can count on doing my searches and finding those cached pages, even today, when in actuality they may have moved or they may have changed in content. That's because there is a timing difference between what is cached versus what is dynamically changing on the content side. Um, but anyway, coming back to the concept of the visible web, news are these are say the examples of visible web. Amazon, eBay, public social media. See, when we say social media, there is publicly available information, and that information which is within groups or which can be shared at will by the user. So there are different layers of it. The one that is available to the public or which is indexed by the search is what we are calling public social media. So any information that you can get freely is on the visible web. Then not worrying about this shaded part where I'm pointing to, it's called layer one. Layer one is actually just telling you that as long as you have a control for allowing for certain information to be in public domain and other that you can uh, hold within your groups or that run within groups, that is what is in the layer one. At the top of layer one, at layer zero, everything is public. Anything that is under the red line is what we call within the shaded area of expressing mm, the content here. It says um, Reddit, for example, 4chan, FTP, BitTorrents, ripped movies. These are examples of something which lies in between the visible web and the deep or invisible web. So we have given it a layer that's called Berger's web. Um, it is not a dark web, but it can be a dark web. Just so that you are able to get to, let's say, Reddit, or in the community of Reddit, there is a lot of securities or privacy privileges given to the user. They can create private groups which can penetrate and get into. Even if you are a subscriber, you may not be able to get to it. There could be forums which are closed forums or open forums. So that is one aspect. When we talk about paid torrents, we're talking about illegal files, softwares that can be exchanged or that you can have access to. Yet they are privileged, and depending on whether you are part of the group or the owner of the group or the moderator of the group would make that decision. Under this blue area of Burgess Web, there is the more open deep web, which means deep web simply means that you might be asked to open up an account there, It's not exactly the social media, but it could be anything. So subscription-based accesses, memberships, certain privileged information like medical records, you will have access to it, except that you need to go through a certain channel and be able to justify your privileges to access someone's medical record. Insurance companies has that privileges. Research papers, academic, these are all examples of what would be considered deep web, because these are not indexed, yet they are navigational. You can navigate to it, they're advertised for marketing reasons. So they bring you up to a point or up to a page where you would be asked to, subscribe to something, given your information, some basic information, and then you would have access to something which is not indexed or hides behind that last page of where you would be accessing it through your login and password. So, reading a lot on the internet, I saw people making claims like 98%, 90%, just giving arbitrary percentages, saying that so much percentage of the information or the web is hidden. So you only get access to maybe 5%, again, variations without any substance. There is no calculation available. But anyway, the thing is that you do have access, you do have a knowledge really to where these information records are, except that you know you're not accessing them unless you willingly are able to subscribe to them or register with to get access to that information. All of that is deep web, and therefore, just because it gives you the direction or leads you to those type of databases, it is not truly hidden. Okay, yet because they are not indexed, they are called deep web. VPN, by the way, is another type of deep web, which means these are private networks. VPN simply means that it is a point-to-point connection, and point-to-point means it's dedicated circuit which guarantees a certain bandwidth and encrypts information enough that it is more secure than the regular network or internets. And because it has a VPN capability, it is also something that we use regularly if we need to, let's say, search from sitting in US, we need to search from Germany, and we want to access the open web um, with the privileges of whatever the local or localized search might be for those that are in that country. So sitting in USA, you can be searching as someone in Germany just because you are given access to a server which is sitting in that part of the world, and it's opening the doors for you and simulating as if you were searching from that particular location. So your IP is not truly trackable in that sense. So VPN also is something that works parallel or somewhat another set of circuits that can be differentiated from the actual internet itself. Um, and therefore, it is considered part of the deep web. Um, Anonymous access browsers, I get questions on DuckDuckGo, for example. It claims to be a kind of a search engine that maintains anonymity for the user to not have or be hidden from finding where the user is located, or where the history or anything that is otherwise recorded in the uh, Google or any other main search engines would not be recorded or would not have an impact, and therefore it is more neutral in that sense, in terms of what could have a bias or what would allow a bias for the search engine to bring back at its own will. So that's where DuckDuckGo is different, but it is not really a search engine. It is a good piece of software that works exactly like browsers. In fact, it is a browser, and it is not making you totally anonymous. Just to make that clear, anonymity in the true anonymity means that nobody knows where you are located, or your IP is not trackable, or where the vendor or whoever the or whichever website you're going to would not know who you are, and even the identity of the owner of the website is concealed totally. So you wouldn't know if that domain is registered somewhere or who's the owner of that domain. So it is a two-way anonymity that makes it a truly anonymous setup. But in DuckDuckGo, it is not so. DuckDuckGo is not making the owners of the website anonymous. At least that side, this is clear. And as far as the user, the DuckDuckGo environment would have a complete record of your location and track your IP. But what it will not do, or the level of anonymity only remains restricted to not collecting your information on browser, or registering your information there, or not having the short and the long-term memory of information to impact the search results. So that's about as much as the DuckDuckGo will do. Um, then for someone to have access to, let's say, a completely anonymous websites which don't actually have a domain name, but have numbers or other sort of alphanumeric characters to give it a connectivity with the server that would host those websites in a total anonymous way. We need a browser like Tor or Tor or Onion router or Onion browser, they call it, which would make both the user and the site owners totally anonymous, unknown to each other. And at the same time, whatever the server is holding or connecting you through or with each other, uh, assuming it's the Tor browser you're using, because Tor is a community now. Tor itself has a lot of websites, and they issue temporary domain names which keep changing. So what the server is doing, what the Tor server is doing, is that it keeps changing the IP addresses, making it dynamic, and it uses a lot of technologies that ensures that no one outside of its environment is able to tap into or break into or access the communication links. And therefore, most of the dark web activity is held, or is maneuvered through Tor web browsers. iQuicks is another example, but Tor is the true one, or the only one that dominates the truly anonymous access into the dark net. We don't discuss a lot about darknet here. That's a parallel system running, um, and it's not a kind of technology that we like to promote, and therefore there's not much that's contained in your book on the dark web. So we sort of ignore that. But dark web is part of the deep web. So between the visible, the deep, and the dark, these layers are somewhat giving you an idea. If you get a question in the exam saying what is a dark web, you would know that it is, no, I'm sorry, what is a deep web? You would know through the examples. They would say medical records, are they part of the visible web or deep web? You'd say deep web. Okay. So that's why we've got this chart. So you can sort of memorize it, or maybe just get a sense of what is held in the visible versus the the deep web. Okay. So now filter bubble. We've talked about this before. If I have to do my searches, and assuming I'm using the Google Chrome, I would not use my own account where I have a registered login for the browsing that I do on regular basis. I wouldn't use it for my searches. I would create another account that is kind of not has a stricter privacy policies that I can control. I would apply somewhat an anonymity. There is some option which makes it slightly anonymous. There is a security part, global reach, which is selection of language, selection of geographic area, um, local reach. It would give you options to see if you want to make it truly localized or the specific area where you want your searches to pertain to or relate to, especially if it is, between countries. The language barriers, like if I want something in some other languages, I can do those changes. Um, and then let's not this is not actually part of the course, so I'm just going to complete non-index phase. So I just am able to make all these changes using the settings of the browser. So for that that other browser that I'm preparing for my searches, I can customize it and somewhat make it gender neutral at times, because I don't want any of my previous data or previous searches to have any impact on the search results. So I like to neutralize it. The internet bubble is where what is considered to be a set of restrictions or imposed implications of forcing search results to be uh, returning the uh, back to back to you as having somewhat you know different results than you expect, only because the search engine has used its own influence to impact your type of results you're getting. So if the internet bubble is to be examined as a test between two searches, you can think of one search in region one by a person named Alex, who happens to be, let's say, in USA. Corey is another person who is sitting somewhere in Middle East, in Saudi Arabia somewhere, and both of them using the same query string or using same search terms, using same exact browsers. When they do their searches, they will get two different results, or the SERPs would be serving results which are not exactly the same. So, for the reason of neutrality and for the reason of having a non-biased results, the search engine should be serving both Corey and Alex exactly same results as they're applying the same search queries. But that is not the case. So when a situation like this is to be examined with the implications of how it is different, we say that individually Alex and Corey are put in an internet bubble by the search engine itself, without their consent or without their knowledge of in what ways it has impacted those results. So that's the internet bubble. And these are some of the areas in these tabs that you may want to consider fine tuning or changing them, as a choice, which allows you to make those changes in your web browser. Okay. So let's go to So this is just information. It is nothing to do with the exams. It's just interesting information. I wouldn't want to discuss this part because it's just going to take away time without any real reason. Let's look at internet research challenges. Now, this is telling you about the awareness or consciousness of knowing how the information can be impacted based on factors which are listed here 1 through 27. And these are just, I mean, these are explained in details individually in paras that are in the book. But generally, looking at the statements or how they're phrased, you can tell what they're talking about. Generally, I would just say that I would pick and choose and see if any of these you want to discuss with me or want me to discuss slightly in detail. Otherwise, it is self-explanatory. Challenges easy and fast information, meaning that the quality of information is compromised. Too much data, too much information means too much confusion, and making decisions quickly on what should be part of your research and what should be excluded um, would depend on the time frame or the way you are assimilating that information. If you are getting a lot, means that you will make a lot of haste in making decision. So you have to look at the ease of the information should not impact your judgment and should not get overwhelmed. Selection of specialized search engine is particularly important because everything depends on strategy of your research. Especially in online research, there are a lot of different applications and a lot of assistive technologies and a lot of specialized search engines and specialized portals where you need to strategize of where you want to go to, and you have to give it a ranking on reliability, authority, as well as the quality of information. Sometimes you need search engines that are, that you're doing search for historic data or something that is in the archives, which is not time sensitive, for which you don't need current information. Then you can use certain other type of search engines other than Google to get to those archives. Information timelines, obviously, what matters is, how much of a time you have to complete your research work. Going on to information portals, information context. Context is important when you build your search queries. The challenge is that if there isn't enough context given to the search, or you lack some of the core terminologies or the way in which you're going to phrase that search term would have an impact on your search results. Predictive technology or assistive technology that search engine offers, you should be able to give attention to it and not ignore it totally, because obviously there is some wisdom to it. Multicultural and language barriers, certain information censorships, certain terms which are more sensitive depending on the geopolitical situation, what you may be able to have access to, or what information is, or what wordings you may want to avoid. Those are multicultural and language barriers. Language barrier could mean different things, but if you read through this part, you will find that you can overcome that by, by fine tuning or basically making some changes in your browser. um, Regional specific default browser you need to be out of that internet filter bubble, so how to neutralize it, that could be a challenge. The net neutrality, meaning that there are, you can only put certain type of information, or you can access certain information which needs to be vetted further. Just the fact that anybody can put their ideas or thoughts, or just because it's a neutral environment, or supposedly a neutral environment, you need to be able to understand that net neutrality does not mean that you can put anything out there. You need to be, you need to go through what we call internet ethics as part of your training for research purposes, or if you're online researcher, internet ethics is a subject that needs to be taught, and points to what is considered net neutrality, what is considered moral obligation, and what is legally kosher or not. All that would come into play. The complex legal issues, depending on where you are searching information from, your location, your environment. So legal issues to do with IP, intellectual property, um, the issues that pertains to copyrights, particularly reuse of data, maintaining data integrity, to what level you are able to mitigate any risks associated with legalities within within the same environment or whichever country you're searching from. All that awareness has to be there. So these are challenges. Then you've got cyber vandalism, intentional misrepresentation of information, stealing of information, or something that is, you know, intentionally distorted facts, corporate advertisements, to differentiate between uh, what you can read between the lines to understand if it is real, or whatever the claims are on those websites, if they're true or not, if they're advertisements, or they're just pointing to another navigational site that we call, it's part of the um, funnel marketing. So to see and read the corporate advertisements carefully, if they're real or not, or if they're leading advertisements. Tabloid and magazines, facts, you have to verify. So tabloids usually have catchy headings, and their intention is really to make a story more juicy and may not be as truthful, or they can play with the words. You have to be careful of that. Religious beliefs, anything that is coming as a result of bias based on somebody's religious beliefs, to look at it with more rationale of um, you know the background from where the uh, content is extracted, or which is, let's say, if it is not a propaganda machine, or if it is not a well crafted or well designed scheme that is leading someone to have something to do with religious beliefs. The political material, you have to look at carefully. News media, propaganda groups, technology misuse. We're talking about, phishing and all those kind of frauds that we will be tackling later on in the internet law. That's technology misuse. False reviews. False reviews is quite a trend these days. It's directed by the marketing companies, and they're done without making spending too much time, or they're not really true reviews. So false reviews, raves and rants, somebody is angry, or has bias or some strong beliefs and ideas against someone, so they would just put some information there. um, False surveys and polls. Lot of companies, the integrity of those that are doing surveys as a business, or those businesses that are exclusively preparing online surveys and polls, they are all different types, and they're, just like insurance companies, there's A plus, A, B, C, and all that. Same way, there is a rating of survey groups or survey companies that do it as a profession to have some sort of integrity and some sort of way of um, ensuring that they're reliable enough. Self entitlement of opinions. This is somewhat plays a role in the net neutrality situation. Consequence, self-entitlement, okay, a consequence of rapid internet speed. Twitter, for example, spreading rumors quickly, retweeting something. Social media and information sabotage. uh, Ghost writers, which is very common. One person writing on 10 different subjects and with three different pseudonyms. who knows, intentional misinformation or leading some forums to uh, to int to create that that momentum or that murmur in the internet forums intentionally, or to bring about subject that are heated subjects in the forums. Those are, something, one of those challenges that you have to filter out and see how much you can rely on that. Data generalizability with internet research. Don't generalize, you have to be more specific, give more references. You just have to have that way of authenticating that information. So don't think of opinions, or don't take opinions based on the number of reads that you get online. Don't generalize the information. Human subjects and privacy is another matter. So if it is a survey that's collected from humans as subjects, uh, there is legal issues which would not allow you to use certain type of information collected without going through the legal procedure. So if it is a human subject, you need to look at whether you can reuse that information or use it firsthand for the client, um, and without having a knowledge of the collateral damage it would have, or the legalities of risks that follow. So you are dealing with 27 of these different challenges. I just quickly read through them. There isn't enough time for me to get into the details, so that this is the best that I could do. Unless you have a question, we will move forward. And you notice I'm doing it quite rapidly, because the course is actually quite hefty. It's a long course, and there are about 500 pages in the book. So what we emphasize on, and the objective of running these slides, is to only identify those things which would be important for the examiner to examine you on, and also so that you don't ignore, or you don't you don't pay attention to these slides, might give you problem in the exams. So most of the slides we are running would have one question, or at least something to do with all this that we are discussing. But if you go through the book and read every page, it is a very long process. So when you take the course, like you've done now with online classes, you don't have to go through the entire book, and you would know what is important. And at the same time, the concepts that we are dealing with these slides are important enough that you don't really need to read the entire book. Okay. Uh, Sources of information. Okay, sources of information. So here we are starting with something called data. I think I should not start today. This part is going to take us into the type of data, um, which is, first-hand information versus, secondary information. What is more value? What is hard to get? How do you interpret the scope of research when they're talking about the type of data and nature of data? Because your client is going to be very clear and would pay you according to the uh, complexity involved in collecting the information. So the information or the data itself would have a value to how it is collected, meaning that you collected it from the source directly, or it was a secondary source, something you got from the documents, or from actual service, or whether the information is third party hearsay, or it is coming from a source that is not authenticated. So the pricing, the value will depend on the complexity. That's number one. Number two is the usefulness of data or application of data um, in creating the management reports, for example. It's just management report. We will use the word management report for now. Anything that is organized as facts, which is used by the management to make decisions. So if the data is such that it would have a very huge impact on management decisions, then it is best to go after the primary source of the prime because it is more reliable. And the client will be in a better position to identify what is considered important and whether that information or the management report that's created is being used by third party, let's say banks, outside lenders, or shareholders, or it is used by the owners, directors, or the management internally. Depending on who the audience is, you will have to get instructions from the management to look at the user side of who is using it, and based on that, you would know the importance or the the value or the type of data that you need to put in. Uh, so that part we need to discuss. And it will all start from the scope of research, which is the first document that you get. How do you interpret the scope? And remember, the client is not as savvy, or a lot of times they don't understand the technical language of how they can write the scope, which can be written in more detail or can be professionally written or could be just few lines that may leave a lot of gap for you to pitch in or cover what you or how you would interpret it as a professional researcher. So that way, the scope might be broad or it can be more elaborate or more detailed. The more detailed it is, the less work you have to put in, or you would find it easy to, um, to go back and write the proposal and put the figures or the costs and the effort involved. So it becomes more easy for you to work with the if it is has a broad scope, it means that the scope of the or the way in which the scope of your research is written is very concise and therefore gives you a broader range of ways in which you might want to interpret that. And therefore, the scope is where we're going to start with and see what impacts the scope of research and how we can exchange documents between the client and you as a researcher, where you are assumed to have more knowledge or a better knowledge, and you are now starting to communicate with the client in a more detailed and a more structured way. So it is more like a hand holding. This situation is typical in research work. So a lot of practical experience is being shared in these classes with you. So with this, I would say that we will start with the data types or the type of information, primary, secondary, and so on and so forth, as I explained in the next session, which is on Friday this week. So let's call it an evening. I think it's about time that we can, call it an evening for most of us, except for James. So James, are we done? Any questions I can answer for you? And Justin and Dorothy, good enough?
Nope, good for me.
All right.
Yeah, that was
And
great.
and
Thank
vice,
you.
thank you very much. I'm sorry, it was a lot of information. I just have to, keep it going with I guess it's more narrative sort of format in which I've explained things. The slides, basically, these are just pointers, and there is so much more behind them. And as I speak, I am actually translating in a more concise way what you would otherwise find in your book. So you don't have to read the book, you just have to get a general idea. If you pay attention to whatever I'm blurting out, that would be good enough. Okay. So this is the reason. I'll see you again on Friday. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
You
Bye
then.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks, David. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.